welcome to the Ego Drop with me, Steph.
And it's Nicole here. How are
I'll
you?
put you on the spot there.
Okay.
So this week
I,
is
I, I was watching the hand and I wasn't sure where you're gonna go with it. So I was like, ooh,
I like
how
to
are you?
surprise you with a little intro. Yeah, well, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, not too bad at all. At all,
Good.
at all, at all.
Well, this week is a bit
Having a
weird,
bit,
isn't it? Because it's a second part of ego and yoga. So we already know how the second part of this episode is going to go because we've already recorded it. So a bit of a different one for us. But
yes, indeed.
yeah, so how has your last week been, Nick Nack? How has your ego affected you?
Yeah, I'm a little bit. Oh, did you hear that?
What was that thing?
My
Is something done?
my, di- my diary.
Oh, you
Um,
know,
yeah, yeah,
you
it's
double
it's
booked.
yeah, yeah, it's not too bad at all. I'm just nothing too nothing exciting. Just all right.
Fair enough. Have you had a healthy ego? Has it been raging? What go on?
Well, go on.
What go on?
Yeah. No raging lunacy because obviously I'm, all settled now. I'm in a new motor, so
Oh, did you buy it?
yeah, so I'm driving around feeling like,
Oh, get you,
yeah.
girlfriend.
That's maybe the ego right there, feeling like I'm just so
Oh,
chuffed with myself that I'm.
oh, how nice.
So that is kind of where I'm at. Other than talking about the usuals, that gripes me all the time about myself is training. But yeah, I'm feeling quite chuffed and yeah, smug at the minute with myself. So no raging, nothing. It's all just nice and steady.
Oh, that's good.
How about you? Tell me you've got more exciting things to tell me about
I'm
what's
not entirely sure that I have. We got the kitchen done. I think that's the last thing we chatted
yeah,
about. So that's all looking good.
yeah.
And I broke up with my personal trainer.
Have you?
Yeah, it was only ever going to be a short-term thing. I've moved to a gym now, so I'm going to focus on sort of in-person training.
Yeah,
I haven't yet arranged that. So yeah, that was a bit of an ego challenge, I guess, because he's been keeping me on track, and
yeah,
obviously the results of what he's done, I've been very focused on. That's your ego, isn't it? Attaching to the
yeah,
results. And now I've let go of him. And typically, work and other lifestyle issues have completely got in the way of me going to the gym in the last couple of days. Lack of
mm,
sleep and other things I shan't bore you with on here. But
mm.
so I haven't been going to the gym. So I'm now really anxious and worried that I'm going to lose those results. And yeah, so that's my ego in the back of my head. Instead of just going, it's okay, it's okay to have a day or two off as long as you don't
Yeah,
slip
it's
back to
attachment.
those unhealthy habits.
Yeah, it's attachment issue though, isn't it? Because
Yes.
you've now separated yourself from the person you've been working with for some time. You're comfortable.
Mm,
He's been, holding you accountable and so on.
mm.
Now it's like, that maybe that child who is going out there, first day in secondary school and is like, no, you got to go and venture out on your own, navigate the big
Yeah.
bad world. And it's like, oh, but the thing is, the gym that you've joined,
Mhm.
would you consider trying a personal trainer there for a bit?
Well,
Reason
I've
being,
got I've got a couple of free sessions as part of the membership. I've
oh,
just got to book them in, and in fact, I made an inquiry the other day, but it didn't happen for one reason or another. So yes, I'm going to try some
yeah,
in-person
yeah.
training.
It's just to kind of keep you accountable so you don't lose the
Yeah,
momentum that you've already built.
that's what I want.
So that's kind of what I wanted to throw in there.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I also think aside from the ego, if you can separate it from ego, I guess, I also find exercise is a bit of a drug once you get into it. You know,
Absolutely.
once you're doing it regularly,
Yeah,
and you start to feel kind of withdrawing if you're not getting there. It's like,
yeah,
oh, I feel like
yeah.
I need to be there, and if I'm not, I feel guilty, which I don't necessarily know is a
It's,
healthy thing. But for me, it keeps that momentum going.
yeah.
Whereas if I slip away for a week or two, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I don't really want to
I'm
go
done.
now.
Yeah,
raining, it's cold, or
yeah,
I've had some bread,
yeah.
whatever the excuse is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can it resonates with me as well, Steph, because um, back in I started my boxing again, as you
Oh
know,
yes, yeah.
back in July, the 1st of July, boom, I wasn't feeling up, but I was like, I've got to break this deadlock, of not being committed to the gym like I normally am. And so, I went back in there, and then August, I don't know what that nastiness is that I caught. I caught
Oh
something.
yes, you were really poorly, weren't you?
Yeah, and it was just going on for like 2, 3 weeks.
Mm.
And so I didn't go to the boxing training for 2 weeks. And I'm telling you, the third week I said, no, after I came back from camping, I was like, no, I've got to go. I'm not feeling.
Mm.
I'm telling you something, I'm struggling so much, still to this day, struggling so much with my breathing and everything. Before I stopped, I was doing the block run. We do block run, every time we go, we run for about a mile and a bit something. Very quick, high pace, everything, training that, and then you go for the run or vice versa. And I'm like, and I'm at the back, and bless them, these guys, I really love training with these guys. One week, the guy was running behind me with his hand like this in my back, and he goes, no, Nick, I'm not leaving here. And he's got his hand in my back, and he's pushing me. So I didn't have a choice. I had to keep my legs going. But the issue is not my legs, it's my here. It's my
Okay.
breathing. So I'm struggling so much. And I just feel so that's why I'm like,
Mm.
because that's how I've been feeling the last few weeks since I've been
Oh,
back.
bless
So much
her.
so that I've been having a conversation today with one of my friends about, whether or not it's something that might be lacking. I know I'm rubbish with my vitamins. I'm not on top of it. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's what's contributing factor. I'm thinking, is it
maybe.
vitamin D that's lacking again? Because the last time I was feeling like this, it was during the COVID period, and then I got put on some high vitamin D. I don't know if that's what's going on with me.
Maybe. But I don't know about you, but I think healthy habits breed healthy habits. So
Yeah,
if I'm going to exercise regularly, I then want to eat healthy and vice versa. Whereas if I start slipping from the gym, all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe we'll have
everything.
the chips, maybe we'll have
Absolutely.
the wine,
Absolutely.
maybe we'll
I'm with
do
you.
the
I
bread.
understand. No, I understand. And you can see that's oozing out of you as well, that level of enthusiasm that you're
Yeah.
experiencing, the
Yeah.
euphoria. So I think, I might just try to piggyback on that. I'm not feeling not wanting to go. I'm just feeling a sense of, I want to keep this up. I want to really stick with this, and that's the good thing about when you have a trainer, you know what I mean, involved as well.
Yeah.
I think I would certainly encourage you to, at least when you're starting out, because especially as I know gym, that kind of environment is not your thing. I
Mm.
think try and hold on to someone, because that's what the boxing does for me. At the minute, I haven't got a personal trainer at the
Yeah.
gym, and that is why I'm struggling to go to and stick to the gym. You see? Because when I have
Yeah.
a personal trainer, it makes me turn, because you're paying money for these people to.
This is it.
So it's like you're thinking, I have to go because I'm paying 30 quid, whatever it might be an hour.
Yeah, definitely. No, being accountable is really helpful to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
and it's, you know what, Steph? One of the things I've now accept, as we're women of a certain age. I think once you've gone over 40, we've got to really, it's good to be serious before, but I think if you weren't serious before and you weren't maintaining before, once you touch 40, try and hang on to the gym, hang on to your
I
work,
think everything's a bit
hang on
harder,
to it.
isn't it?
It's
And if you
harder.
lose it, it's harder to come back. So you've got to have that level of consistency. I think as you get older, like perhaps when you were younger, you could get away with not being quite so
You
consistent.
know what I mean? You could say, "Oh, I'm going to a wedding. In 3 weeks. Let me go on a diet."
Yeah.
Try that
Whereas
now.
now we'd have to start 6 months before.
Yes, my dear. So yeah, but one of the
Oh,
things that I enjoyed. Oh yeah, sorry. Let me just slow down.
that's all right. Well,
Because
that's a
running a bit
little
in my head.
little intro. So, shall we take a break before we go back to our wonderful conversation with
Yeah.
Carrie Martin? Okay.
Would you say, Carrie, that there are positive aspects of ego? And if so, what are they?
I don't I don't know if there are positive aspects of ego, but there are positive aspects of recognizing ego.
Mhm.
And I think that is positive. Ego is part of human nature. So there's no point saying it's bad, because it's
Mhm.
part of every single person.
Yeah.
So we can't criticize, because also if you start to criticize, then you start to judge yourself, and that's no good as well. So I think the positive of an ego is being able to recognize when the ego is in control, and then figure out, okay, what can I do to like soften the ride in this moment.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's that over projection of self, that throwing your weight around as if, hey, I'm in the room. None
Mm.
of you are important. I'm here.
And it's just the lens through which you've studied it, maybe. Like, I've studied it through yoga and yoga philosophy, and a little bit through conversation with Martin, a little bit through meditation, and learning a bit about sort of Buddhism and things like that. But for me, it doesn't show up as like an inflated sense of self
Yeah.
in the way that you'd imagine, like, I'm the best. Like, that's initially what I thought ego was, like the
Mm.
puffed up person that walks around, like Martin said, with their like fancy car and their fancy suit, and I'm the best, I'm the bomb, I've got the big yacht. For me, ego shows up when I feel most vulnerable. I'm going
Mm.
through something that makes me very vulnerable. I get highly defensive, and that's when my ego is playing up.
Yeah.
And I don't stand there being like, I'm like this, I'm this is my ego playing games. My ego is like a child having a paddy. Like, that's when my ego
I can relate to
plays
that.
its hand. Yeah. And I was looking back at sort of the yoga philosophy notes that I've got on this.
Mm.
In yoga philosophy, like the Yoga Sutras have a whole section on this, and they say that the seed, the tendencies you have, the habits you have, these deep, deep, deep scars called samskaras that come from all your everything,
Mhm.
grow into something called wrong knowledge, which is misperception, which is stuff that is not true, which
Yeah.
generally are beliefs about yourself, which are not true.
Yes.
Like, I'm not enough, or I'm not good, or this, like all that stuff that people have this constant chatter regarding themselves, and it's
Yes.
all wrong knowledge according
Mhm.
to yoga, and it comes from this seed of whatever's happened in their life. The seed grows into the roots, which grows into the trunk of the tree, and the trunk of the tree is the ego. In
Yes.
Sanskrit, it's asmita, and that is the ego. This is the sense of I, comes from these roots, comes from the seed. And if you believe in the I, then it goes into the branches of the tree,
Mhm.
which branch off into aversion. Okay, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that. Or attachment, I need that, I love that, I need that. And if you believe those things, it grows into the leaves, and that's the fear. And with the fear, nothing good will happen. And so
Mhm.
this ego is the tree, that is the trunk of the tree that connects the seed, the misperception and the habitual, like the stuff that makes you your
Yeah.
quirks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it will lead ultimately to fear of losing what it is you love and you want and you need, or fear of having what you hate. And
Mm.
I don't know if without the visual that makes sense, but
It does, absolutely. And I guess the lesson that teaches you is that at any point until those leaves appear, if you become aware of your ego and you can manage it or cultivate a healthier ego, you can stop that tree from growing.
yeah.
Is that fair?
It is, but ultimately, without burning the seed, without challenging this self-belief, which people call limiting beliefs. Like, you listen to all these wellness books and everyone's on the same page, right? They're like, it's a limiting belief, it's a self-judgment, it's a, I don't know all the different words, but every wellness book you read, it's like, okay, what do you perceive? Like, what do you see in the mirror? Like,
Mm.
and those tendencies. So when I say like my ego shows up in like a child having a tantrum, it's because I have these like insane seeds still.
Mm.
But over the years, through practice, through things like yoga and everything else that
Mm.
butterflies out into, you start to hopefully burn the seeds. And so I hope by the time I'm 100, say, that some more seeds will be. But that's the practice of life. And when you look at yoga and the sutras of yoga, this is the practice, the path. It's a path.
It's interesting about it being, the ego is you, because it is self, isn't it, essentially?
Yeah.
So, it is you, but then on what level is it you? So like if I should like draw a line around you, like where are you? Like where would you draw the line? Because like some people just like, this is me. Like they don't even assume their own bodies. Like even the language, like my body, like you own your body, like it's a possession of this thing, the possession of the ego. Like it's pretty wild. So like you have the ego, which is you, but then when you kind of distill it down, it's kind of, and when it's in balance, I think it is just kind of nature. Like you are nature, you kind of would move with it and move with the balance of it, and you get tripped up when you've got these sort of the seeds, the misbeliefs, the misconceptions that causes you to stumble and trip and have these attachments and aversions. But whereas really we just kind of all move with the way of things, and I don't think there is a separation between like self and bigger self, one, whatever, you might get into hippie. But yeah, it's kind of
Next you're gonna go the woo-woo world.
I've got to be careful, man.
I know you mean. Yeah. When you start guys, it's just so much, you know what I mean? I'm just learning so much each time when I talk about this, and I'm just lost. I love being lost in it because I think what I'm learning from, the topics that we've discussed, it's linked to every aspects of life, everything about us. And if it is right, that ego is us and it's part of us and it is us, whichever it is, or we're one, then that's why it's relevant to everything that we're talking about. You know what I mean? So Martin, this one is for you this time. Carrie's very much the face, of yoga from a student perspective. How does your yoga cope? Your ego, sorry, cope with that.
I'm thriving.
When you're the man behind this, when you're the person around the back, somewhere there doing all of that stuff, and Carrie's the face of it all. How do you cope with that?
It suits me. I don't have to turn up and present in any particular manner. No, it's great. I love it. Yeah,
crack on, Carrie, crack on.
Yeah, you deal with that. You deal with feeling insecure today. Like you can have a bad day in public. Well, it's fine for me. I don't. That's why I've got this light above me. I just kind of really desire the spotlight, really, and I never had it before now.
Okay, there's two of us. The light on my forehead.
I know.
That leads quite nicely onto my question for Carrie, actually, because we've been discussing recently body confidence, and our last podcast was about body image. And obviously, as an online yoga teacher, you've got to put yourself out there online, whether you're having a good day, whether you're having a bad day. It could be a good day physically or bad day physically or mentally. How do you get over those usual ego troubles that most people suffer with at least some points in their life? How do you deal with that and manage that?
That's such a good question. So it's really hard, like putting yourself in front of people constantly when you're not feeling great. And of course, we're all human, and there are days you feel really good and there are days you don't feel good. And within a day, there are 100 moments when you feel good and then 100 moments when you don't feel good. And so you can't guarantee you're going to feel good for teaching. And it's something that I'm slowly learning over the years. In the beginning, it was like, right, I'm teaching, have a nap, go for a run, make sure I'm in like tip-top shape to like show up to a class of people. And then you realize that they're just people, you're just a person, you're sharing something that you love, that you believe in, that you know is beneficial to others. And so that helps. when you remind yourself, like, I'm just human and I'm gonna show up. For me, on a day where I'm struggling, like physically or mentally or emotionally, it is always a couple of hours before. My ego is like massively inflated and I have big aversion, like, I can't do it, I don't want to do it, I can't show up, it's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair. That's what goes through your head, right? And then the minute you get in front of your students and you take a big breath, that's when the yoga magic happens. I feel it now, like, and you have a great class. And actually, like, there are a number of classes in my life that I can remember vividly. And one of those was the morning of my grandmother's funeral. My class was being covered by one of my teachers. My class was at 7 a.m. The funeral was at 10. At 9 o'clock the night before, the teacher's like, I'm in hospital, I can't cover your class. No one could cover it. I did the class, like, tears, everything. Like, I was in a horrible state. But I can't tell you, it's probably one of the best classes I've ever taught. Totally unprepared. I had none of my equipment with me, like no nice light, nothing. Like, I was in a state, but because I was so much in a state, I was so present, and I remember that class so well. Another class was my first class back after having COVID for the first time. So 2 weeks totally out. Like, you know, COVID back in the day was pretty much like you were flat, right? And I was flat, and so was Martin and the kids. We were all flat for like 2.5 weeks, and eventually I can't have any more yoga cover. It's time to teach. That first one back, like, again, I just so much resistance, so much ego, and then the class was amazing. So those moments and those classes where it's most hard are the ones that are better. Like, even yesterday we had a struggle and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can teach. But then Martin said something to me, like, I can't remember what you said, but it was like, go teach, go be with the community, like, go breathe. And it works, and it works.
It's so true. I teach 2 face-to-face classes on a Wednesday evening, and I often don't finish work until the hour before, sometimes within that hour. And sometimes those days are really, really stressful, busy days, and I feel like I haven't come up for air, and then I've got to go straight round to the hall and set up and teach for 2 hours solid without any dinner, without spending time with the family. I guess that's going back to that circle of duty we were talking about earlier. And the amount of times that I've got on the phone to Karen, who, you know, also from study days, and said, you know, I just don't want to go to yoga tonight, and she has the same conversation with me. But you never ever regret a yoga class, and after those 2 hours I feel so zen. And so I guess high is the only word I could think of using. It's just so sort of at peace, and everything else about the day is almost forgotten. So I totally get what you're saying there.
So, Carrie, do you ever experience imposter syndrome?
I always experience imposter syndrome. And I said it to my friend. I've got a really amazing friend here, my best friend, and she's a doctor, and she says, I feel it all the time. And I'm like, but you're an amazing doctor of like 15 years. She's like, yeah, and I'm a person and I'm a human, and what? How am I a doctor? And I'm like, what? And how am I guiding yoga? Like, yes, I feel imposter syndrome every day. And I think it's because, and I have this conversation a lot with Martin, he's like, well, why didn't you feel it when you taught English? I'm like, because I don't really care about that. Like I did, but
yeah,
but I didn't. Like, now I'm like, yeah, but this is important, and if I don't do it right, then they won't feel it, and then they won't feel good, and it's like, yeah, but, and that's your ego. So yeah, every day I feel it, but I feel it when the ego is playing, like when the ego has the reins, and it will be in a moment where I'm feeling vulnerable for whatever reason. Something will have happened, or I'll be in a place of like, I don't want to get into Ayurveda and the energies, but when you're out of balance, there's these things called the gunas, and when tamas or rajas has taken the reins, which I guess are forms of ego, it's hard to have clarity. And anything can do it. Too much coffee, like I quit sugar this month just for a little experiment, and I've noticed like less reactivity in my daily life, and that's really helping. But anything that kind of shakes you up a bit encourages the ego, and then if you have a conversation which relates to your job, imposter syndrome definitely kicks in. So then you get to class and you remember actually you're just a person breathing, guiding some moves that you believe work well for you, so why doesn't someone else try it?
What we found on this journey is that it doesn't matter what your background is and who you are. I think everybody at some stage or other experiences imposter syndrome. A few weeks ago, we spoke to a leading barrister, King's Counsel, who has been a leading judge for a number of years and has numerous accolades and a very successful career. And even she was saying she walks into court thinking, what am I doing here? So yeah, totally get that. So you've mentioned a little bit about yoga philosophy. What does it teach us about letting go of the ego or releasing ego?
This is a funny one, and I don't know if it teaches us anything directly. Like, clearly working with the seeds and our tendencies and our sort of self-beliefs is something that if we work with, hopefully we start to feel a little bit more resolved. But another thing, which I don't know how it relates exactly, but there's this one thing, and it comes from the Bhagavad Gita, which I just think is the most incredible tale, which is a podcast for another day. And the main premise is behind this is something called, in Sanskrit, abhyasa vairagya, and it's this idea of working hard, but not too hard that you're burning the candle, that your ego is like, look at me, I'm doing all the work, I'm working 60 hours in 24, but you work consistently, so you show up. So whatever you do, you show up. Like you've got that job, that's your responsibility, whether it's working, you know, in a garden center, whether it's being a yoga teacher, whether it's being a barrister, whether it's being a parent, whether it's being a carer, whatever you are doing in that moment is your job, whether it's making dinner, whether it's washing up. So do it with consistency, do it with mindfulness, and then relinquish the results. So do whatever you can, but with no desire for any kind of outcome. And that is a practice that is very helpful, I think, for diluting that I-ness, that I sense of ego. Also really hard to do though. But it is philosophy. Philosophy isn't easy, right?
Yeah, definitely. From your point of view, Carrie, what are the benefits of releasing ego? Should it be released entirely? What do you think?
I don't think you can release it, but I think you can identify less with it.
Yeah.
And then the benefits are that you can show up with more presence.
Yes. Yes.
So we've talked a little bit about negative experiences of ego, and we've talked sort of broadly about it, but Martin, to you first, can you think of an example of when ego has impacted you negatively?
It'd be the hard one first, wouldn't you? Just lots of times when I get upset about things, where you take yourself too seriously, and we wanted to change the world first. Start on the outside, and why is it like this? I used to sort of carry the weight of everything on me, like I was in a position to do something about it. I used to think I could, and it used to cause me a lot of pain because obviously I couldn't do anything about it because I was a mess myself. Really, well, I wasn't a mess. That's dramatic, but like I hadn't started in the center, so I used to be really angry about things and politics. I was so interested in politics and the world and the state of everything. And
that's enough to make anyone angry, isn't it, these days?
Oh yeah, now gosh, I have to not look. There's so much sort of triggering type stuff going on in the world, isn't there?
TV and the news, the mess. So, how about positive ways that your ego has impacted you, Martin?
Yeah. So just starting to become good at something and acknowledge that I was good at something, so to feel good about myself when I'd not always, you know, others would say, oh, you're good at this, you can do that, or whatever. But until I, you know, started to feel a better relationship with self, and then I could kind of let go of it a bit more then, because I was kind of, oh, okay, like I don't need to fight or push or in the same way. So yeah, I think starting to become competent was really important for anybody, like in whatever it is, like even just like, you know, tidying your bedroom, that you start somewhere. I think just developing some competence and becoming, you know, in the world and being, you know, able in yourself to do things and to contribute positively. Again, like Harry says, the outcomes thing is really important. So it's like, I want to do this because this will be good for these people. Like, will, you know, will it? Like, yeah, control.
Carrie, how about you? Have you got negative and positive examples that you can think of how ego might?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I was to pick like one time of, so I think that you have positive and negative examples frequently throughout the day.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether I'm just becoming more aware of it in more recent times, like in the last few years, that I noticed this. But I think there was a time in life, in my 20s, I guess a decade in life, where anxiety raised its head quite frequently for me, and certain things would trigger it. And one example I can think of was this robbery that occurred in my house. I did live in this little beach house on a beach in Malaysia, and during the rainy season, the fishermen would frequent the houses and take whatever was sort of available. And so I kind of put myself into a dangerous place, but wanted to live by the beach, so did it. And the house was very nice. But when it happened and I was robbed, and my anxiety kind of went through the roof. It reminded me of a time I was robbed when I was younger, and it kind of caused all these problems for me. But instead of having right knowledge and being like, look, where you're living, like, what do you expect? Like, what can you do to physically make yourself more safe now? It's this actually just identify with anxiety instead, and let the ego run its course and start to kind of pander to that. So instead of acknowledging what was actually happening and trying to make clever and wise and rational decisions, the irrational takes over, and you can blame things and you can have this insane amount of fear, which translates into all areas of your life. So you're scared of driving, and then you're scared of teaching, and then you're scared of like showing up at the supermarket because you feel all panicky. But actually, when you acknowledge what's truly happened and you have this sort of right knowledge about it, then you can drown it out. So I think instances like that where anxiety has been big, I also attribute that to the ego, because it's based on lies, it's based on imagination, it's based on wrong knowledge. And I'm not saying I was aware of it. Like, hindsight is magical, right? I look back and I'm like, what were you doing, 26-year-old Carrie, you fool? Like, but at that moment I couldn't do anything different. And so I guess you live and you learn, and you hopefully become a little bit wiser. So maybe that's one. It just, you let things spiral out of control, I think, if you let ego take the reins for too long.
Absolutely. And so to market the Frog Project, Carrie, you are required to put yourself out there on social media a fair bit, and that requires an element of positive ego to be able to show up and advertise and show your postures and demonstrate. But how do you square that with the idea of yoga philosophy and releasing the ego?
It's a really good question, and one that I've struggled with for 4.5 years. I have a real negative, judgy view on social media, like to the point where I'm angry if someone else is looking on it. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? And I constantly say, I hope the whole thing blows up before our 5-year-old daughter gets old enough to learn anything about it. So I'm working on that on the sidelines. But
wait till she gets 10. I have a 10-year-old going into her final year of primary school, and I've been asked if she can have Instagram. Obviously, she's far too young, and the answer is a big fat no. But then, nevertheless, they're on the YouTube looking at other kids, and
even kids the age of my daughter look at YouTube, but luckily mine doesn't really have any idea what it is. Yeah, ours. Sorry, Martin. I always do this.
We know whose ego runs that particular household.
But in terms of the Frog Project and social media, it's been really tricky because I genuinely believe in yoga. And so making yoga videos and showing up in that way, like, I love it. I love making yoga videos. I love making little practices because they help me. And so I genuinely believe they'll help someone else, and the imposter syndrome goes away and all that stuff, because that's what I believe. So, like, let me share that. And if it's helpful to me, maybe it's helpful to somebody else. So I have no problem doing that. What I do have a problem doing is putting stuff on social media, because I don't want to add to this world of trying to pick someone's attention and be like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Like, I get so embarrassed about contributing to it and really struggle. So I love promoting our events because I'm like, yes, it's Yoga Nidra, it's amazing, everyone should come, because I believe in it. But if it's like me trying to promote something more broadly, I get apprehensive because I don't want to add to it.
It's like a necessary evil, isn't it, almost?
Yeah. But I also know that social media is extremely powerful, and we run a digital company. So I'm not totally naive to think that we're like people are going to do online yoga that have the internet, right? So likelihood they're on Instagram or Facebook, and so that's a way to advertise and to catch them, and hopefully they come. And so by magic, and also by the internet, we have finally hired somebody to help us with this. And so we're a really small company, as you know. It's me and Martin, and we have help a little bit. But one of our teachers also is a social media, like, she's great at it. And so if you've seen our Instagram, Steph, you probably have, it's changed over the last 3 months from me being nervous and apprehensive and doing a terrible job to now these beautiful reels and all of this nice stuff that our social media manager is doing. And so now I feel really at peace, because she's confident with making stuff, I'm confident with filming stuff, and so together the pieces fit. And I don't believe that the ego is, we're on a sales mission. More bums on seats means Frog Project live a longer life and more people can do yoga. You know, I used to work in a telemarketing company. So did Martin way back in the day. So did probably many of us in our 20s. And that is soul destroying, selling something that you don't believe in, like private hearing aids to 90-year-old people. Like, you know, it makes you want to be sick when you go home at night. But we believe in yoga, so we want to sell it. So
yeah, and I think, but I want to go back on what you just said. So is it that, yes, you believe in yoga, yes, you enjoy filming. So is it that you, to put the reels together and putting it out there, it feels like you're being too self-centered? Is that what you're saying? So that was uncomfortable for you? Is that what it was?
Yeah. I think so.
So
I didn't want to add to the world with, like, I thought the quality of what I was producing wasn't very good, and I know for a fact it wasn't. Like, I don't have that design eye, I don't have that technical know-how. I don't really understand Instagram. And also, maybe this is ego, I didn't want to understand it.
So it felt fake trying to market your own company, basically, in that way. Okay, would you have been happy to print some A5 or whatever paper and go distribute the the markets, you know what I mean? The
like
the
flyers.
events that's going on near in your local communities, like you're more happier handing out a leaflet as opposed to being what and I think it's because we're made to feel like, and I'm one of them that feel that way as well, where it's in your face, it's so in your face. Oh, I got nice teeth. I went to Turkey and I got some new teeth. Nothing is wrong with it at all, but because we've gotten so used to a certain kind of image on social media, lots of us, when we have something good to share and to offer, services and so on, we kind of coil. We're recoiling and saying, nah, I don't want to do it because I'm going to be like them. I'll be seen like them.
Exactly.
And the reality is, you're just advertising digitally as you would do a piece of paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But also, what's different with Instagram and Facebook
Yeah.
is the
You got
likes
TikTok as well.
and the comment. We don't have TikTok. I've never even looked at TikTok. I don't
You
really
need to get that.
but it's the likes and stuff as well, and it's just a world I just have a big resistance to it. I don't want to be a part of it, and it's a necessary evil. And I'm really happy, like when you listen to podcasts and read books about like startups and being an entrepreneur and stuff, it's like when you can afford it, hire the thing you hate
True.
doing.
Yeah.
And like it's the best hire, right, Martin? Like she's amazing.
She's good because it's difficult, and I've always felt for you having to do it because it's such a hard thing. Because like yoga's a bit of a meme, isn't it? It's just like middle class white women like doing things in leotards, and it's all a bit silly. But you almost kind of like get drawn to that as well, and like not so you don't have courage, Carrie, but like to really go against the flow with that, and to I want videos on YouTube of people doing yoga in jeans farting like. I just want to like
Real people.
real people, yeah. Like I want that. That's what we're for, right? We want to be yoga for the householder. We're not about like all of that stuff. But to get to that point, like we need the confidence and the maturity to be able to do that and to do that well. And the time and the resource, and there's a lot of things that come together, right? But that's what I want our message to be more about, rather than just contributing to the meme that is yoga. I don't know, and the videos and stuff you have great value, Carrie, and they do, but it's how do we, from a marketing sort of sales perspective, like how do we sort of stand out from that? How do we differentiate that? How do we get people to put the phones down? How do we get people to, because to get people to do an hour of yoga, like it's such a big ask. Like an hour, like for yourself is massive. Like I bet do it. Like I don't do any of yoga. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I like a cycle. It's my
That's really
sorry, go on. Were you gonna say something?
No, I'm good.
That's fine. Carrie, what are the best yoga poses or practices that can help us to release ego?
I think if you're going along the lines of trying to identify less with yourself, you want to find postures where you can be really present. And this will vary for different people depending on what they're comfortable in with their body. So for me, it would be anything forward folding, and it links back to what I was saying about the like work hard and release abhyasa vairagya. And Steph will know this well, there's a group of poses that they call the vairagya poses, which are only called this by the Institute of Mumbai, the Institute of Yoga of Mumbai, and our school in Thailand. It's not really well known. But they're forward folding postures. So the head is below the heart. They're passive in nature. So you don't have to have like, your legs strong and your feet grounded down and your arms reaching up. Like if you were in a high lunge or some kind of warrior, like that's a very strong pose, where probably you're going to be like looking around, like what's going on? Like, how's my posture? Like how straight are my arms? Where's my knee? And when you're thinking those things, you're probably like attaching to some kind of I-ness. But if you're in what they call a vairagya posture, you are in a place of introspection. So your eyes would be closed, you will be folding forward, whether your legs are out in front straight, in a butterfly, so that's feet together, knees wide, legs wide, child's pose, standing, forward fold, any of these postures that have you head low and in kind of a floppy, passive state. And when you're in these places, you connect to your breath, you close your eyes, and the rest kind of melts away. But having said that, if you have tight hamstrings, you might find that impossible, and then you might be like, oh no, like thinking about that. So it's all going to be different for everybody, but I think if you are struggling with this sense of I, finding a pose that you can just Shavasana, lying down, doing nothing, something like that.
Okay. So Martin, where does the Frog Project go from here? Are you content with where you're at, or do you want or do you have ambitions for the future, and how are they linked to your personal ego? That's if they're linked to it, by the way.
Yeah. So we've always been really ambitious. We've had like a really clear idea of what we want the Frog Project to be, in terms of really good yoga for everyday kind of people. No nonsense yoga.
Yeah.
So we want lots of people doing it because it's beneficial. We want to do courses. We want to be a place where teachers can engage in professional development and develop their own practice as well. Because it's a bit of the Wild West really in yoga in terms of like accreditations and certifications for teachers. Like you mentioned gym yoga before, like a lot of gym yoga teachers aren't qualified to teach yoga. It's like fitness yoga, so they'll have to watch for injuries and stuff in places like that. Not all gyms, obviously. So we want to do all of that. But in terms of where we are, we're kind of coming to terms with where we are in terms of it not being where we want it to be, and hasn't been where we want it to be ever. And so that's kind of there's a dissonance there in terms of like we've always been like, right, invest, push. Whereas now it's actually we are as big as we are, and it's not as big as we'd like it to be, but this is where we are, and we're kind of more at peace with that. And I think we could be able to push forward better from that place of actually this is where we are, as opposed to like this is where we want to be. So I think we feel a bit more grounded and a bit more resolved at the moment. There's been quite a few changes over the last few weeks for us, but my ego, I don't know. I'd like it to be a bigger company for sure. It'd be great. Where do I fit in with that? I don't know.
It sounds like there's been an element of releasing your attachment to results, like what you were talking about earlier. You had this plan in mind, it hasn't quite happened exactly to plan, and you've sort of let that go now, and you're at peace with how you are. So that sounds like an ego journey, if ever there was one.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, before we wrap up, we have to ask you the question that we ask all of our guests. So aside from the physical practice of yoga, and of course yoga is much more than just the physical practice, but aside from the asana, what habits or hobbies do both of you have that help you to cultivate that healthy ego? Martin, if I can go to you first.
Doing new things regularly. Like I have to be learning and doing new things. Like I'm pretty unemployable at this point. Like I need to be doing stuff. The mundane terrifies me. So yeah, making a habit and a practice of learning and doing new things. Cycling when I can, getting out on my bike really, really helps. I love to cycle, and meditation as well. They're the things for me.
Carrie, how about yourself?
For me, and Martin will laugh, anything in nature ticks my box. If he says, what do you want to do today? It's like, forest or beach. he's like, I know you'd want to go to the forest.
I'm the shopping.
Pardon?
I'm the one that likes the shopping.
Yeah, I hate the shops. Anything outdoors, like gardening, just makes me feel like just so good. Like,
Are you still doing your cold water swims?
yeah, and I was gonna say, and cold water swimming Tuesday mornings at 6:30 a.m. This what is it, September? This is my 4th year starting in September.
Yeah.
With my amazing friends that live here in Scarborough. Our group is growing a little bit. We're now 6 people. But it's just magic. We go at 6:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, whatever the weather, into the sea. I was in this week. We were in 15 minutes. It's getting colder. I do no wetsuit last year. I managed it till the end of, was it the end of October? I think it was, and that means there's still like another 6 weeks, which terrifies me. And then we did it till the end of March. So November to March, we were in wetsuits, and then the rest of the year. But still, the rest of the year, socks, gloves, rash vest, and hat. So not like totally just in cozies. But I gotta tell you, like, it's just absolute magic. Like, if I had to pick something, you know how people are always like, oh, I want a quick fix, I want a quick fix. Like, you're looking for a quick fix. Going in cold water is a quick fix. It is a quick fix. It wipes the slate clean completely. Like, when you're in the water, you cannot think about anything else. Like, if you're running, I love running, gardening, cycling, all of those things, but your mind's still chatting away, isn't it? But when you're in the sea, it's like, am I gonna die? Am I gonna die? Am I gonna die? You get out, you're like, I didn't die! And then you're on top of the world for the rest of the day.
Wow.
Cold water swimming. This is the magic. This is the magic for sure.
Wow. I'll dream of trying that one.
You should try it. You should try it.
Most I've managed is a warm hot shower to a warm shower to a cold shower.
That's also good. Icy blast.
But this business of the sea, cold, ooh, I'll dream of that one.
Very nice.
Anyway, I want to thank you both for joining us. We have really enjoyed the discussion today and learning a bit more about yoga versus the ego, or yoga and ego, you know, that kind of thing. Martin, please tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you, you know, get in touch with the Frog Project, or TFP. Please tell them where to find you.
Yeah, so our website is frogproject.yoga, so that easy to find us. So yeah, frogproject.yoga, and then we're on all the socials as well. We've got a community, so you can join our community for free. We have free events regularly. We've got monthly memberships. So yeah, got a whole host of good stuff. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you both so much for joining us, and thank you to our listeners, and we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
We want to hear from you with your stories and your reflections on any of the topics that we've covered so far, or maybe even your suggestions for topics that you would like us to cover in the future. So please drop us an email at theegodrop@gmail.com, or you can message us on any of our social media accounts.
Our podcast can be found on Apple, Spotify, and any other platform where you consume your content. You can also find us on all socials as The Ego Drop. That is on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, and Facebook. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to our channel, and we'll be most grateful. See you soon. Bye.